Hallo und herzlich willkommen zurück zu einer weiteren Folge. Soll ich mal das Shadowverse sagen? Nein. Äh, Chäos Head Noah. Und in der letzten Folge gab es ja das Erdbeben. Und jetzt sind wir gerade dabei, um ein bisschen was darüber zu erfahren. On it, I found the following article: over 200 casualties in Shibuya. So there really had been an earthquake. It had been a seismic intensity 5 quake, and loads of people had died. The casualties were currently set at 200, but the article stated that the number may even go beyond that. There were also reports of Shibuya's sky turning pure white for a short period of time, as well as a giant mushroom cloud through no one knew if either of those were connected to the earthquake. The earthquake was also being discussed on Channel, with people posting things like more Shibuya stuff or Shibuya's over or whatever else. There was also a video uploaded on there showing footage of Scramble Crossing that had been taken from its various surveillance cameras.
これ地震だけじゃないよね。
When it happened, it had been hit with a terrible headache, and it wasn't just your normal headache. It had felt like my head was boiling, and even now, almost 2 hours later, I was still experiencing throbbing pain and fatigue.
電子レンジに閉じ込められたらあんな風になるかもしれない。
If I thought about it that way, my delusion that Shogun was getting after me with EM wave attacks might not even be so far-fetched. Right at that moment, I had a familiar sound coming from my PC. It was the notification tone that played whenever someone entered the chat room. Grim might have joined. I wanted to get the full story of what had happened, so I opened up the chat room. Shogun? The moment I saw that name, a shriek escaped my mouth. What was with this timing? Could he actually read my mind after all? Then the hand I was using to hold my mouth was trembling. My entire body was frozen in fear, overriding my headache. Just looking at Shogun's name made me feel sick, but I couldn't look away. I wanted to close the chat room, but I was in such a state of shock my mind and body felt like they had been ripped apart. I tried desperately to move the mouse, but my body simply refused to listen to me. I felt chills in the nape of my neck. I was being watched, God's gaze. Or maybe it wasn't God, maybe it was Shogun's gaze, being shot down from an orbiting satellite. Oh, just leave me alone, I wanted to run away. But where would I run? It didn't matter where I went. Even if I went to the very edges of Japan, he would still catch me. It's been a long time. That's the first thing Shogun said to me. He had said it like he was just casually saying hello to a friend he hadn't seen in a while. But I knew for a fact I had never ever considered this guy a friend. My teeth sank into my lips as I stared at the words written across the monitor. However, instead of making me freeze out of fear, the message from Shogun instead sent me grabbing for my phone. It was past 3 p.m. At this hour, classes were probably still in session, but surely my situation wasn't hopeless. If Rumi was here, she could do something. That's what I wanted to believe. I went to my address book, although it wasn't much of a book considering how empty it was, and called Rumi's phone number.
助けて、リミ。
Do you hate me is all good.
リミ、早く。出て。
It was hard to breathe, I couldn't think straight. Rumi wasn't picking up, there was no voice on the other end, only the monotonous dialing sound repeating endlessly. Why, whenever I'm in trouble, you are always there for me, so why aren't you answering? A present? You're gonna send me some more disgusting shit, and this time you're gonna blame me for it. You're gonna pin me as a new gen culprit. No, anything but that. It's not me. I'm not the culprit. I felt like a fish that had been ripped out of water. I was losing oxygen. My mind was going fuzzy. My only ray of hope left was Remy. I grasped my phone tighter and tighter, praying with all my might to the other end of the call. She picked up.
助けて。
留守番電話サービスにおつなぎします。
Oops. I hope it pleases you. Voicemail that couldn't be. Komm, Delusion kickt rein. Discouraged, I hung up the phone. I wrapped my arms around myself. Before I knew it, my body had started trembling. I was more afraid of Shogun than I thought I was. But why wouldn't I be? He was a homicidal maniac, posing as a handicapped person, and he had already committed 5 unspeakable crimes. And there was the next one in his sights.
助けてよ。
Kommt jetzt Sarah? Ah nee, Remy. Remy. It was as if my prayers had been answered, like the cries of my heart had been heard. Remy really did always appear whenever I was in trouble. Und man muss bedenken, das Bild ist nicht verwaschen. Das heißt, es ist keine Delusion, es ist keine Einbildung in dem Sinne. She opened the door and leaped into my room.
リミ、助けて。
Remy looked straight at me, then quickly examined our surroundings. Immediately realizing that the source of terror was my PC, she began typing on the keyboard with an angry expression.
こういう時はきつく言った方がいいよ。
Leave Taco alone or I will kick your butt, this guy. You have to be ruthless at times like this. Remy looked back at me and smiled gently.
こう言っておけば案外あっさり引き下がるでしょ。
Was that really how it worked? Remy was only that reckless because she didn't know much about the internet. Being that blunt would only make the other person even madder. And here the other person was Shogun. As I stared at the monitor with bated breath, Shogun sent yet another image. You're dead? Okay. The room went silent. What the hell? I knew it. It really had pissed him off. The tone of his last message was very clearly different.
どうせ口だけだよ、口だけ。まさかここに直接押しかけてくるなんてことはないって。それよりタク、大丈夫だった？ごめんね、電話くれたでしょ。ちょうどこっちに向かってるところだったから出られなかった。さっきの地震の後、タクが心配になってここまで全力疾走してきたんだ。
Oh.
来てよかった。
While I was listening to Remy's voice, I couldn't take my eyes off the monitor. His message had left me deeply unsettled. You are dead.
なんてこと。
私が来たからもう平気だよ。何の心配もないから。
なんてことしてくれたんだよ。殺される。あいつに殺される。早く逃げないと。
落ち着いて。殺されなんてしないよ。タクの考えすぎ。
Oh, die Augen. Suddenly Remy went silent. Her eyebrows furrowed and she looked up at the ceiling.
どうしたの？
その目。誰の目？
Her voice was a soft murmur. Suddenly Remy's face contorted and she grabbed at her head with both hands.
頭、急に痛くなってきた。痛い。そう。
Unable to endure the pain anymore, Remy fell to the floor. She was shaking her head madly.
なんで急に。
Sorry. Don't tell me. My gaze shot towards the ceiling. No, not the ceiling, towards the sky beyond the ceiling, toward an artificial satellite that might or might not exist. Was Shogun attacking? Clip. A drop of blood fell from Remy's nose. Suddenly, her half moans, half screams, keys. Remy's body shook violently as she staggered, and then she dropped to the floor head first. Oh. Nicht gut.
Remy.
There was no answer. She didn't even twitch. He had killed her, using a satellite, using EM waves. Shogun has killed Remy. How? That had been so quiet. He had killed Remy with neither sound nor smell, without even a hint of his presence. It had been way too quiet, but that only made it even more terrifying. There was no escape. I kneeled to the floor and shook Remy's shoulders.
ねえ、起きてよ。リミ、
There was no escape, no matter where I went on Earth. There would be no escape.
僕を置いていかないでよ。
Wherever I would try to flee, Shogun would be able to attack from high above the sky.
こんなの妄想に決まってる。
When I returned to my senses, I was still in front of the monitor. The answer Remy had written earlier had vanished. And Shogun's "You're dead" had too. I looked back towards the rest of my room, and Remy's body was nowhere to be found. I felt relieved that Remy wasn't actually dead, but I was disappointed that she hadn't shown up. Why wasn't she here yet? I was absolutely terrified. I needed her now more than ever. Shogun had already left the chat room. All that remained were those 4 lines. I didn't want to see any of it, so I hurriedly closed the chat room while Shogun wasn't in it. My body was still trembling. Shogun was trying to provoke me. Was it fun fucking with me like this? Had I been chosen as the next victim, and this was means to that end? Or was I just the perfect person to pin his crimes on?
誰か助けてよ。
I stared at the post-awakening version Seraton, as if I was clinging to my only refuge.
一人は怖いんだ。
I didn't want to be alone. I wanted someone to be by my side. I wanted someone to protect me.
そうだ、学校だ。学校へ行けば。
Remy will be there. I couldn't bear staying here alone with my spiraling anxiety. I took off my worn-out sweatshirt that I usually wore around the house, threw on my uniform, and left my base. Once I was hit with the cold air of the outside world, my headache ever so slightly subsided. The city had a more restless atmosphere to it than usual. Probably due to the earthquake from earlier. I didn't know that for sure though. In the distance, the sound of sirens continued to echo endlessly, but I wasn't sure if they were from ambulances or fire trucks. Could have been both. Yamatodori, which was 1 block away from me, was completely jammed up. Traffic was bumper to bumper. There were multiple visible accidents, most head-on, and the cars involved had simply been left abandoned on the road. The drivers nowhere to be found. Those abandoned cars were the cause of this traffic jam. The other drivers were honking their horns like crazy. As I was wandering the street to get to school, I saw a dog crossing the road barking. It was a chihuahua, sprinting at full speed, dragging its leash behind its small body. Its eyes were bloodshot and a large amount of drool was dripping from its open mouth. It had probably gotten separated from its owner. As I absentmindedly watched it get farther and farther away, I tripped on something and nearly fell over. The asphalt was cracked and one section of the road was ever so slightly lower than the rest. It had most likely come from the earthquake. Stopping right there, I looked up at the sky. There were a few white clouds drifting calmly across the dull light blue. Just after the earthquake hit, something similar to an aurora had formed in the sky and tainted its pure white, but the traces of it had already disappeared. This ain't right. This ain't Shibuya. I couldn't calm down in the slightest. Not just because of the earthquake, and not because of the headache either. It wasn't just those, but a certain urge that was threatening to overtake me. For some reason, walking around like this, it made me feel like I wanted to kill someone. By the time I got to the school gate, the anxiety and sense of dread I'd been feeling were increasing by the second. I had the chills. My body wouldn't stop shivering, and my headache was coming back. When I looked closely, I noticed a group of students formed around the third-year building. I looked for Remy within them. For some odd reason, everyone was looking towards the top of the building, and even those who weren't soon followed suit, almost like a bunch of lemmings. Ah, ich weiß, was jetzt kommt.
Oh, Taku!
Misumi-kun rushed over to me. I should ask him where Remy was. Ja, es geht jetzt nicht um Remy, es geht jetzt um eine andere Person.
お前、今日学校来てたんだな。いや、そんなの今はどうでもいいから。
He looked gravely serious and his face was pale. Seeing Misumi-kun like this was very unusual. What the hell was going on?
マジで。やばいよな。あれ。
Things are bad? What did that mean? What was bad?
病気だったんだろ。精神病のことがバレて余計におかしくなっちゃったらしいぜ。さっき飛べるとか言ってたぜ。やべえよ。やばすぎる。
Boy, das ist böse.
人が死ぬとこマジで見てんだけど。きっとグロすぎて最高だぜ。早く落ちてこねえかな。
I could hear things like that coming from everyone around me. Don't tell me. I had a bad feeling about this. Fearfully following the gazes of the other students, I looked up at the school building. Yep, Ayase. On the edge of the rooftop stood a single girl. In her hand, just like during the concert, was a D-sword, with a pose emblematic of praying to God in the heavens above on the edge of the roof. Stood Kishimoto Ayase. Auch eine sehr, sehr wichtige Szene.
その体は写真の影に潜み、目には映らない存在。
Kishimoto Ayase felt the wind blowing. The cold wind brought with it a faint hint of winter. Her expression inundated with pain. Huge drops of sweat formed on her face as she faced the child gaze.
離れようとも離れようとも冷めぬ悪夢は。
The Sume Academy rooftop was enclosed by a 2-meter-high wire fence, as he was standing on the other side of it, occupying a space of only around 30 centimeters. 10 minutes had passed since she had first started standing there. One more step and she would fall from the roof of the 4-story school building. Many students were gathered below Ayase, watching her with bated breath.
剣となりてこの身を切り裂くのだろう。
Also, no police and emergency service had already been contacted. Also, the police and emergency services had already been contacted. They had yet to arrive, likely due to the earthquake had only hit a few hours prior. The teachers were running around in panic, scrambling to get gym mats ready in case of the worst possible
無
outcome.
関心という名の盾で戦火を免れる人々。
And yet, Ayase stood completely still, unperturbed by the ruckus below, or rather, she had deliberately cut herself off from the rest of the world that lay beneath her. As she gazed up to the sky, Ayase closed her eyes, her pose emulative of that of a maiden praying to the heavens. Due to her good sense of balance, the wind did not manage to sway her slender body. a fact made all the more impressive by her grasping a sword as long as she was tall.
神聖なる戦場の敵は心の内の悪意なるもの。
The sword, her D sword, was blinking with a pale blue light. As if synchronized with it, Ayase's labored breath continued, and then she began to murmur once more.
悪意は時として意志を持ち、そしてその姿を表す。
The verses she had unfolded through her murmurs soon vanished into the wind. Ayase opened her eyes and gazed at the crimson sky spreading over the buildings of Shibuya.
この世界は悪意の妄想に満ち溢れている。みんな他人の不幸が大好き。目を閉じても耳を塞いでもダメ。昔からずっと私のそばを離れてくれないわ。
As she breathed the soliloquy into the air, Ayase pulled her gigantic sword to her chest and gently embraced it with both arms. Curiously, the sharp sword did not leave a single injury on her.
帰りたかった。大いなる意志が住むもう一つの世界に。そのために心を切り刻んで全部受け入れたわ。混沌の器としての夢を。
Ayase's face twisted in sorrow. Tears quietly spilled from her eyes, droplets flowing voicelessly, were all swiftly carried away by the wind.
だけどグラジオールの帯同が活発化している。もう時間がないのに見つからない。見つからないのよ。天国の扉も賢者も導き手も7つの神罰も黒騎士の伝説は本当なの。歌はもうたくさん歌ったわ。それで足りないって言うならね。大いなる意志よ。
Ayase spread her arms out far and wide, as if trying to embrace the sky itself, as if trying to show her presence to God on high.
私は飛ぶわ。
The pale blue pulsating of her sword intensified. Ayase closed her eyes once more, and in that moment a final tear dropped from the corner of her eye.
お願い、この器を差し出すから、魂を連れて行って。
And then, without a moment's hesitation, the girl, with nothing there to support her, took a step forward.
帰るべき場所へ。
She felt the cold caressing her cheek. Her gaze fell to the earth. Looming close as she fell was a door, a gate, and on the other side was the sky Ayase desired. I couldn't do anything but watch it unfold. After Ayase spread her arms out, she slowly stepped into the thin air, as if taking a step down on a non-existent staircase. Screams began to build among the spectators, coalescing into one gigantic roar. With nothing left to support her, Ayase, like a puppet whose wings had been cut, fell headfirst towards the ground. Everything appeared to be in slow motion. Ayase's body was going to crash to the ground. Her descent was incredibly slow, but she was definitely falling. She was gonna die. Ayase was gonna die. I couldn't do anything to stop it. I couldn't save someone falling from that high. And there was nothing but concrete below her. It would crush all her bones, rupture all her organs, and make her dark blood and grey matter spurt out all over the ground. If only there was a flower bed or something. If only there was something soft below her. If there was maybe it could save her. I didn't want to see someone die. As I went to close my eyes, for an ephemeral moment I felt chills on the nape of my neck. I looked behind me, but not a soul was standing there. Everyone was either looking down, averting their eyes, or looking up at her. Whose eyes are those eyes? A sound shook the air. The sound of a person crashing down. It was the first time I had ever heard that sound. But it had a lot less impact than I was expecting.
まさか
Next to me stood Misumiko, his eyes white as dinner plates. I expected his gaze to be tainted by dread, but the way he stared at the place Ayase had found was one of surprise, not awe. And it wasn't just Misumiko that was like that. All of the specters looked like they had no idea what was going on. They were all lost for words. Huh? She was alive? Ayase wasn't getting up. I couldn't tell if her bones were crushed. I couldn't tell if her organs had ruptured. But her grey matter hadn't spurted anywhere. Hadn't spurted everywhere, nor had her dark blood. Ein Blumenbeet ist jetzt da, wo vorher nur der kalte, harte Asphalt war. Und sie gibt Geräusche von sich. Also noch ist sie nicht tot. Es gibt noch Hoffnung. A smile feeble groan escaped from Ayase's mouth. She was alive. She seemed to be unconscious, and she wasn't moving, but she was alive. She wasn't barely even injured. There was only a small drop of blood on her forehead. She had fallen from the rooftop, but there she was, lying there almost completely unharmed, lying atop a flower bed.
花壇に
Yep. Was there always a flower bed there? Nein, war nicht gewesen. Da war eben noch harter, kalter Asphalt. Ich würde aber tatsächlich sagen, obwohl die Folge jetzt etwas kürzer ist, würde ich das hier jetzt beenden, weil es einfach so gut passt. Vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen und bis zum nächsten Mal. Ciao.